After being the victim of rape since her mother died when she was 7 months old, orphan Lebo, who's now 15, finally found the courage in March this year to run away from her abusive stepfather's home in Soweto. Her stepfather's believed to be a drug dealer with 18 runners who also abused her. She ended up on the streets when a community volunteer found her and called the Tears Foundation for Victims of Rape and Abuse, situated in Sandton.
Abuse and abandonment doesn't just happen between 8 and 4 in the daytime. It's more likely to occur at night, over weekends or public holidays. And that's when state social workers are seemingly unavailable.
Almost 1 million people call Gauteng's West Rand home. Roughly half are unemployed, more than a third live below the poverty line. Non-government organizations that try to catch those who fall through the cracks of family and government care say COVID-19 has had a brutal impact on welfare services. But while NGOs say they're on call 24/7, their experience is that the Department of Social Development, or DSD, is not available in times of need.
Some NGOs claim that the state is shifting responsibility onto the private sector, which is buckling from a lack of support, especially when it comes to funding and subsidies for the social workers.
While DSD says it's working to build a caring society together, NGOs we visited questioned how that's playing out on the ground.
This was the first point of contact for the concerned community worker who found Lebo on the streets of Soweto. The social worker here at Tears Foundation tried to contact the Department of Social Development because Lebo was not just a runaway child. She had serious issues which needed urgent attention.
Tears Foundation is an NPO that receives no state funding and operates through a 24-hour helpline. For a victim like Lebo, Tears calls up the latest centre of safety. But Tears social worker Monica Moachi says when she called DSD on a Friday afternoon, no one responded and she failed to find space for Lebo at any place of safety.
It was just a disturbing time because at the end of the day, we were told that this child is in so much trauma and she needs assistance. So we called DSD, it was on a Friday. We couldn't get hold of any person.
Director General of DSD Gauteng, Onkametse Kabasia, says while state social workers officially work from 8 to 4, they're always on call and state care centres never turn children away.
Our social workers, as and when incidents of vulnerability happens outside the normal working hours, they are able to respond. I can tell you now we've got a lot of child protection organizations. They're spread across the province. Anytime a child would require placement in these facilities, they will get.
One state-run facility is the Walter Sisulu Child and Youth Care Centre in Johannesburg, where some NGOs say children in need are often turned away.
NGOs on the West Rand say that state safety centres rarely have space for children in distress, especially teenagers. In Lebo's case, this proved to be true. There was no bed available here at the Walter Sisulu Centre.
Battling to find a place of safety for Lebo, Moachi sent her to the Cradle of Hope in Krugersdorp. Melody van Brakel had established the Cradle 14 years ago as a haven for abused and vulnerable women. Van Brakel says the Cradle's not legally permitted to take in children, but that they could hardly turn Lebo away.
She was very traumatized. A police vehicle dropped her off. She was all cringed up. She didn't want to talk to anybody.
Once Lebo found rest, the Cradle's own social worker Hazel Basson consulted RATA, another NGO. RATA had been established in 1948 by the Reformed Church, partly funded by congregants and partly by DSD. But RATA couldn't help either. Social worker Elmarie Kennedy says the problem was that Lebo had been sexually active.
We phoned Walter Sisulu and we phoned Girls and Boys Town in Magaliesburg, and both declined to admit the child into their care.
Basson finally called the local West Rand regional office of DSD, but they couldn't assist.
We can't work on a case that belongs to another organisation, number one. Number 2, we don't work in your area.
Although the office that Basson contacted is the regional office situated in Krugersdorp.
Is there no government shelters or place of safety?
We are all full. So no, I'm not aware of any place where there is placement.
The regional director of DSD passed the problem back to Rota, as it's one of the few NGOs in the area that does get state subsidies.
Rota is the area, ma'am. So Rota, if they want anything, they must negotiate with whoever. It's not even my jurisdiction now.
Okay.
Rota must just work and do what they're supposed to do.
Meanwhile, Lebo woke up and told Basson why she'd run away from home.
This is one of these cases that kept me awake at night. The stepfather told her to leave school so that she can become his wife. She's also told me that he's raped her several times, and also his drug dealer guys raped her.
All that remained was to send Lebo back home.
We have gone out of our jurisdiction to go and verify what is the circumstances of this child. And we have found the grandmother at home, and they felt that they want the child back.
It wasn't long before the community worker who'd first found Lebo reported to Tears Foundation that the child was on the streets again.
She was sent back to her abuser, back to the street. So that's why we don't know where she is right now, but we're trying to get hold of her to place her in a proper place.
Mawaki feels the state and the welfare system failed Lebo. Kennedy says DSD could do more to support NGOs.
Their role is to safeguard and to protect and to create facilities and enough resources for the NPOs to actually place our children. However, at this point in time, there's just not enough resources to place our children.
Aside from providing enough care centres, Van Brakel says NGOs are forced to juggle several cases in the absence of state social workers, who she says don't leave their offices, but also don't respond or deal with the paperwork.
We are walking into walls the whole time, phoning the departments that are supposed to help us, and the phones are ringing, emails are not being answered. If it's a child, a problem child, no one's interested in helping. So we have got dozens and dozens of children who are living in life-threatening houses, homes.
Van Brakel says Lebo was but one example of the state failing children in need. But Gauteng DSD says that's unfair. Lebo's case was an exception, not the norm.
It cannot be correct that on the basis of 1 or 2 incidents, we make a general statement that says social development is nowhere to be found.
It seems that the NPOs are the ones really doing the work, that your social workers really don't want to get involved.
I can never agree with your assertion. In terms of our program structure and the kind of work we do, it is highly impossible for anybody to make such an allegation that all the work is done by NPOs. In fact, there's a lot of work. If you say most of it, you mean more than what the government is doing. And I'm saying to you, that is not correct.
Acting Director General for the National Department, Isabella Sekawana, says the state expects the NGOs they do fund to handle the cases in their mandated areas. That is why DSD West Rand shifted Lebo's case onto Rota.
The NGOs are an extension of the Department of Government, isn't it? Hence, we are subsidizing the NGOs. We cannot go and duplicate what the NGOs are doing. So I don't see anything wrong when the NGOs are attending to the cases.
And to add to their already heavy burden, the state is not employing or subsidizing enough social workers to meet the need, something the state does not deny.
The country has got shortage of social workers. We are not able, not in all instances, to comply with the ratio of 1:5,000 because of, firstly, the population we have, and secondly, the nature of the social ills that we have.
We require 55,000 social service practitioners that needs to provide a service. And at the moment, social workers that we have employed are more than 13,000. we are acknowledging the fact that we really need to work more in terms of ensuring that we employ social workers.